You know, the Star Wars fandom is kinda like the mafia. You get out, but then you decide to tip your toes back in for just one big score to help pay off your debts before retirement. And then you realize that the benefits are so good, and then you're doing drive-bys on sequel fans on the daily. Metaphorically. I'm speaking metaphorically. Please don't shut down my bank account, Google. That's probably something you can do now. This has been a roundabout way of saying that my last Star Wars video was quite well received. I even got a reply from Ivan Ortega, which I can't see on the actual video for some reason, and I couldn't resist the siren song of the dark side to make just one more. I promise it's just one more, guys. I ain't like those other chump channels. I can quit anytime. At first, I was thinking of making a low-effort video debunking and mocking tracer and fetish artist Andrew Dobson, who has recently been making some very inane, bad-faith arguments about why Rey is better than Luke on his social media, saying things that are just flat-out wrong.
That's impossible, even for a computer.
But it's not impossible. I used to bullseye womp rats in my T-16 back home. They're not much bigger than T-meters.
And completely reversing his points when he gets called out. You can't argue that Luke is just as overpowered and good at everything as Rey, and then argue that he's weak and useless, you stupid Care Bear reject. Those are the exact opposite things. But this got me thinking about how Rey compares to Luke in general, which got me thinking about Rey's character in general, and then I had a revelation about Rey that changes everything. See, unlike a lot of the sequel critics, my biggest problem with Rey is not that she was overpowered. It's that her character seems inconsistent and lacks a place in the narrative. At least, that's what I thought. Then, as I was going over some of the scenes with Rey that bother me, I had a revelation about her character. You've seen the title of the video, and you're probably skeptical. But let me take you down this rabbit hole. You'll be stunned by how much in-movie support this theory has. It started when I was thinking of the infamous "stop grabbing my hand" scene. You know, Rey and Finn are running from the group of stormtroopers who are shooting at them, and Rey keeps making a big deal out of Finn trying to hold her hand while they escape. People have rightly pointed out that this behavior makes no sense and seems incredibly stupid. You're about to be killed, milliseconds count, and you're throwing a tantrum about the guy you're with trying to pull you to safety and make sure you don't get separated. What's more, this doesn't seem to be a consistent character trait. At other points in the film, Rey has no problem with people touching her, so it's not like she doesn't like being touched. A popular interpretation is that this is a cringy, heavy-handed, I don't need no man feminist moment. But that's also inconsistent with what we see later. Rey has no problem with taking advice or being told what to do by these men. So the natural question is, what sets Finn apart from these other people that might be causing Rey to react so negatively? Oh. I think Rey might have picked up some beliefs and attitudes on Jakku that are a bit problematic, guys. Yeah, Rey is a racist, and I don't mean in a typical sci-fi doesn't like aliens way. I mean in an old-fashioned Earth doesn't like black people way. Now you may still be skeptical, but this is not an isolated thing. Because as soon as I thought of this, I realized the hand-holding scene is far from the only evidence. Let's rewind to slightly earlier in the film, when Rey first meets Finn. Finn is wearing Poe Dameron's jacket, and the droid BB-8 tells Rey that that's his master's jacket. Now, Rey has no idea how Finn actually got this jacket, and neither does BB-8 for that matter. Finn could have found the jacket lying on the ground, he could have bought it or traded for it, but what does Rey immediately assume, with no additional information?
He stole it! Right, that's what I thought.
That's right. She assumes Finn is a criminal, and without even asking him any questions, she attacks him. Finn, understandably unnerved by this strange woman with a staff charging at him with bloodlust in her eyes, tries to run from her, only to be beaten down by her extra-long nightstick, and then BB-8, goaded on by his new mistress, starts tasing Finn. The symbolism at play here isn't exactly subtle, but everyone on both sides of the great Star Wars debate was so fixated on this image of J.J. Abrams as a woke warrior who wanted more diversity in Star Wars that it went completely over our heads. But, you may argue, Rey clearly warms up to Finn over the course of the film, and even gives him a big hug at the end of The Last Jedi. Yes, that's true. It's called character development. After their first life and death experience together, Rey softens towards Finn considerably, deciding he's one of the good ones. She warms up to Finn further at the end of the film after he risks his life to protect her from Kylo Ren. But make no mistake, Rey never completely abandons her racist beliefs. She treats Finn like a moron frequently, orders him around, and is firmly uninterested in a romantic relationship with him, despite his obvious attraction and devotion to her. While Rian Johnson abandoned and drastically changed many parts of Abrams' original plan for the Star Wars sequels, he did continue to develop Rey's racial attitudes. Much of Rey's story arc in The Last Jedi involves her chasing after the first white guy around her age that she has a spark with, despite him being a cold-blooded murderer with the face of a mangled Adam Driver. Rey is clearly thinking about doing her part to ensure a future for white children. This is reinforced during her vision in the cave, where she sees a seemingly endless line of Reys stretching out behind and in front of her, showing her desire for an unbroken, pure-blooded family line. But at the end of her vision, when she moves to the front of the line, she's greeted with a mirror image of her standing alone, showing her efforts are doomed to fail. Which fail they do when her and Kylo take opposite sides towards the end of the movie. Now let's look at Rey's relationship with the different factions and people in the setting. She's actually kind of forced to go against the First Order. In her first scene with some stormtroopers, they immediately start shooting at her. She isn't really given much choice except to fight or flee from them. But she's also ambivalent about the Resistance. Initially, she wants to go back to Jakku and wait for her parents, a sharp contrast with Luke, who was always eager to get off Tatooine, and only stayed out of obligation to his aunt and uncle. And with their death, Luke had a clear personal motivation to want to fight the Empire and never looked back. Rey, on the other hand, has no such personal motivation, and it's hardly surprising that a hardline racist like her would be ambivalent about the multicultural Resistance defending the multicultural New Republic. Then she changes her mind, seemingly for no reason, another thing about the character that people criticize. Or is there a reason? While Rey seems indifferent to the Resistance, she does show a keen interest in the old legendary figures of the Rebellion. She's ecstatic about meeting Han Solo, who she very quickly comes to view as a replacement father figure, and she's very interested in Luke Skywalker, the legendary Jedi. A combination of her growing bond with Han and her desire to find Luke Skywalker cause her to put her plans to return home on hold, and she quickly becomes gung-ho about finding Luke. It's almost like Rey is drawn to white male ubermensch strongmen. Yeah, Rey's a bit of a fascist too, or at least she wants a strong leader to serve, to direct her and give her purpose. But not just any leader will do. It's gotta be a white man. That's why she's not down with Snoke. Again, Rian Johnson continues this theme when Luke reveals himself to be a sad, broken, nihilistic old man, instead of the ubermensch strongman Rey was expecting to take charge and lead both the Resistance and her personally to victory. She quickly starts looking elsewhere, which is when she decides to start pursuing Kylo Ren. See, Rey is conflicted at this point. Her values ironically line up much better with the First Order than the Resistance, but by a twist of fate, she's wound up on the other side of this conflict, and has made genuine, strong bonds of friendship with people aligned with the Resistance. Her attempt to sway Kylo is an attempt to reconcile her two incompatible desires, her innate desire for an authoritarian ethno-state, and her loyalty to her new, diverse group of friends. Personally, I think it would have actually worked quite well if during the climactic scene in The Last Jedi, when Kylo holds his hand out to her, she had taken it and joined him. It's a conclusion to her character arc that both fits perfectly and is shocking and tragic at the same time. But of course, Rian went in the other direction, and Rey stays on the good guy's side. For all his subverting of expectations, Rian certainly made the safer, more Disney choice this time. It's still a fair decision for her to make, though, considering her whole inner struggle and character arc, so I'm okay with it. Obviously, JJ and Rian had to be a bit sneaky with all of this. If they'd been too upfront about having a white nationalist as the protagonist in a current-year kid-friendly blockbuster, the mouse would never have signed off on it. It'll be interesting to see where JJ takes the character of Rey in the next movie, now that he has the reins again. Will Rey's racial and political views continue to evolve, and will she move closer to the more conventional heroes in the Resistance? Or will she grow resentful after abandoning her own dreams and turning her back on her values? Will she complete her path to the light, or will she turn to the dark side? The black-pilled side. Personally, I'm pretty excited to find out. This is the most interesting the sequels have ever been for me, and I hope by shedding light on the true intentions of the creators with this most unusual central protagonist, I've helped you appreciate them more too. As always, please give us a like if you enjoyed the video, and subscribe if you want to see more. Probably not more Star Wars, at least for a little while. But you know what I said at the beginning, YouTube, Star Wars fandom, mafia, you never know. Have a great day, everyone.